Well, hello there, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be sharing with you a quick method that I used previously to make a scrap quilt. As you can see here, I am cutting down some scraps into, I think it's 5-inch squares, and I'm cutting into half square triangles. Now, I've used this technique many years ago to make a quilt and used the format to just make one block and repeat that block out of my scraps. Now, it did give me a little bit of an issue in terms of many colors were repeated, but we will get to that very shortly. So if you love this idea, I would encourage you to try it out. As you can see, I'm cutting and I'm stacking just to ensure I move at speed. Now, with this particular one, we're using scraps, and we all know that we try to minimize the waste and to reuse the fabrics in a way that it's pleasing to us. For me personally, I do like my scrap to have a managed appearance. And what I mean by that is that I prefer it to be sort of cohesive in the way that all the scrap fabrics work together to form one. I am not one of these quilters that prefer to just have it look like a whole mass of colors and textures coming back at you. So what I'm going to do now is to take some of the smaller squares, and do remind though that you can use any size squares. You don't have to use the size that I'm mentioning. So I took a smaller square and some of those same triangles, and I am sewing them on to make a square and point or a diamond in the middle, whatever your outlook is. But as I said before, this is an idea in what I'm going to do here. Do make sure when you add your half square triangles on that you have a small little end sticking out so that it is 1/4 inch, so that it's centered. You can center it in different ways. For example, you can fold the blue square in half and find the middle, and then do the same thing for the half square triangles. As I'm putting this together, what I am thinking about at the moment is making sure the colors are balanced. Again, what I am doing here is using one block that is repeated, but again, using scraps in order to make a quilt block layout that I think is going to be wholesome to the whole quilt. When I choose my colors for my scraps, I always tend to look for colors that's within a pattern print. So for example, the one I have here, where I'm using that butterfly square, and I'm using the yellow tones from the half square triangles to bring this small little block together. So that's the idea that I use to make my blocks cohesive. So I'm going to continue to get all of this done, sew it all together, and to make as much blocks as possible. Do remember, when you start, you must do a top and a bottom. You cannot do a top and a side. It will be unbalanced, and you will have a lot of problem to get it all together, and probably most likely create some Y seams for yourself. So to avoid that, simply sew the top half square triangle on first and the bottom, and then move on to the sides. This makes it a lot more simplified, and you can chain piece in order to get it done quickly, which avoid the lengthy process of having to stop and start and choose. What you could also do as well is get your colors balanced together, set it all aside, and get started on that. And hopefully it moves a lot more smoothly. Right, so this block looks really good. So let's move on to the cutting now. So after I've made all of my blocks, what I'm going to do now is to get them all ready using my ruler here. I'm going to be working with a long line in the middle, okay? That diagonal line, and I'm going to line it up and get the cut that I want. So I'm looking for 6 1/4 square here. Again, you can use whatever size you want. You don't have to use the size that I'm using. Okay, remember, this is a sort of a random thought in bringing these half square triangles together with the squares to make a block. So line it up, and you're going to cut from right to the top, all right, in order to square up the block accurately. We use a diagonal line just to make sure it's centered on both sides, imagining for a minute that the block is a whole block. So you can see here, I have all of my scraps and I have made quite a lot of squares here in this particular area. Looking at it's quite a number of squares on point. So what I'm going to do is to rearrange them. The colors look mad, I know. There's lots of pinks and lots of blacks and whites. There's lots of red tones as well. But I am going to try and lay it out so that it's not too overbearing, at least for my eyes, because I don't like that, you know, fusion or infusion of colors looking back from the quilts. Some quilts it works, some it doesn't. Some I think needs correction, it needs a balance. And I think these colors here do require balance in order for them to work well together. But saying that, they look fine, and I did make them quite quickly. Again, chain piecing is the key here for smart, easy method of making the blocks. So I'm happy with this. So I'm thinking, let's move on now. So this is how I imagine I'll put the block together. So I'm using the first half square triangle. Remember, that's what I said. Start at the top and bottom to form the block. If you notice, it gives you just an X in the middle. Okay. However, when you add on the other half square triangle, if you turn it as I'm turning it here, the larger half square triangle, you get a diamond in the middle, which is a different look from the first one. And I'm here showing you where it is. I have the first half square triangles that's smaller, and you get the diamond in the middle when you use the proper half square triangles. I hope that makes sense to you, but you can visually see you have an X and you have a diamond in the layout. You can choose to, but either way, you will get the same block. All right. Anyway, I did manage to move on and I chose the block that has the X in the middle. But again, do remember you will get that secondary pattern with diamonds. So either way, I think you're on to a win-win. The block measures 11.5 inch square. So it comes up really nicely. Press it really quickly as well. And I'm using my ruler here to demonstrate to you that it is 11.5 inch. Okay, so a nice big block, which will make a big quilt and use a lot of my scraps very quickly. I'm loving that Halloween print there with the spiders. So here's my plan to lay out. And this is what I was a bit worried about, the fact that it's so much colors, and I'm not sure if it makes sense because I'm not sure if it actually shows up the pattern that I really wanted to display. So I have all of it together, but I am thinking that I should do something else because I don't think it makes sense. Don't get me wrong, it looks lovely, but I want more. I just think that I can stretch my imagination a little bit more and get something a little bit different. So what I'm going to look at the moment here is to move blocks around to make sure like blocks are not like together, which I think sometimes makes the quilt imbalance. Set colors are grouped together. But move yours around if you do decide to make something like this. It's a really quick way of using up your scraps, and it does tend to, I do believe, lower down that scrap basket a little bit. And I'm showing you here that it does give you that diamond in the middle. Again, you will have different colors, but I just felt that if I'm just going to leave it like that, I think it would be lost. Let me share with me down below. What do you think? If I just leave it set together as is the pattern lost, which I think it did to me personally. Looking at it now, even from the lens of the computer screen, I do feel it's kind of lost, but it looks nice. It really, really does. And I was really happy when I was putting it together. Anyway, let's move on now to something else and see what else my brain can come up with to, I think, make me happy with the scrap layout here. So I'm going to be using some background and I'm using cream and I'm thinking of cutting them into 2 inches. I'm going to be using some cornerstones and I think framing up the blocks may help to deviate from the confusion of the infusion of colors. So here I am just deciding that I'm going to sew on my sides first. So whenever you're framing up a block, either start again with top and bottom or sides, whatever is the easiest. So I'm laying it all down. Remember, I said the strips or the sashings in this case here is 2 inches. So all I'm going to do right now is to sew them together, and then I'm going to add the cornerstones to the top sashing. That will elongate the length again, and obviously it will make the block square. All right, so I do feel that this will help to make the quilt stand out and frame up the blocks individually and also showing up the pattern, which is what I really want. Share with me down below again if you think I am making the right decision here. But looking at this, trial here, I think it looks fine, to be honest. I'm liking it, and I'm like the cream rather than white that I used here. But again, remember, it's 2 inches all aboard, 2 inches for the cornerstones, 2 inches for the strips. If you decide to do this, looks good so far. Happy with what I'm planning on doing. So I'm going to sew them together, and let's see how I get on and how fast I can get this done. So here is the layout. I think it looks absolutely amazing. So I have made 20 blocks, 4 across and 5 down. I think it looks absolutely amazing. I think it was the right choice to use the cream and the cornerstones and to definitely frame the blocks out. I think it made a huge difference. If you can cast your memory back to what it looked like before the cornerstones and the inner sashings, it just looked jumbled. And this is what I talk about when I say I like my scrappy quilts to look like planned management scrappy quilt because I just think it takes away the madness and you're allowed to see the beauty of the fabrics as well as what you're trying to portray in your quilt. For me, quilts are works of art. There's a lot of thought process that goes into making a scrappy quilt. For me, this is my personal journey. So I do like making sure that whatever I do in the blocks shines through really well. I then decided that I once wanted to add more creativity to this. So here I am. I cut up some more of my scraps and I cut them into particular length. Now, let me say this, the length is not important here, all right, because you are going to trim. So I'm going to make some borders, is what I'm saying. So I cut some strips and I just cut them up into particular length. I think the length I used was 5 inches, okay? However, I am adding on a black strip, and my thought process here is to make a piano keyboard border. And so I'm doing so after every strip, I am adding black um, piece of fabric. All right. Now the black measures 1.5. The other pieces of strips of scraps, as I said, the width is not important. You could just cut them into 5 inches and sew them on, if that's the size border you want. So again, this comes with individual discretion here. It doesn't really matter. You can even make your borders smaller. I just felt that cutting it kind of having them as an average length to cut to 5 is fine. So even if one piece was shorter, at least I know I have enough to trim it all to one size. Okay, so that's literally what I'm doing here. So it's quite easy. Again, I am just choosing colors at random. I am not overthinking the process because these are some of the same colors that's within the quilt already. All right, so just bear that in mind. And what I am thinking though, I am going to add a cream border around the first inner border of the same two strips in order to stop the movement of the eyes for the transition of the piano keyboards. So that is my intention. That's what I'm thinking about when I'm making this. But it's quite easy to do this. It comes along very quickly. As long as you got all the scraps cut and ready to go, you can move on very quickly. All right. So that's the intention behind this here. So I'm going to continue doing this and then we will move on to laying it all out. And hopefully you're getting the idea. Let me know down below. Have you ever tried the keyboard border before?
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, well, I don't wanna jinx it, baby. And twist myself at the spine. Don't wanna overthink it, baby. It's just twist your body and mine. Baby, you give me ice and kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, but I don't wanna jinx it, baby. Let's not get ahead of my time. Oh, but I don't wanna miss you, baby. So I stand up and speak just my mind. Oh, baby, you give me ice and fire. You're chilling in the rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're channeling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly.
All right, so let me tell you what I'm doing here now. So what I've decided, as I said, I did add on a strip, as I said to you, and my piano keys border. So I'm contemplating that I want to add on the other border. However, I'm going to give you some options of what I'm thinking if you decide to make a quilt like this one. So I'm thinking that I could possibly just simply use the same border and transition the black to the next border. What I mean by that is just make sure that you are ending with a black strip as shown on the gold piece. Yeah. Don't end where there isn't. So I'm just telling you that I've ended with a black on both ends. Just make sure that you do that. Just to line it up. There's a reason in my madness. I promise you. So once you've done that, and if you do cut short your scrap, you can use probably a wider black piece just to come to the end of the border so it all lines up nice and straight. But it's important that you finish with the black because if you use a solid piece of the color scrap, it is not going to transition the piano keys anymore. Yeah, so that's the reason why you need to end with a black strip. Okay. I also have the idea that I want to continue the cornerstones even on the border itself and turn the corner of the border into the continuation of the piano keys or to stop it with a black piece of square. All right. So if I add that to the corner there, what it will do is just continue that visual appeal right to the end. So here I am now bringing in the extra piece of the border. Okay, so you see what I mean? So if I add it, it's going to be at the top there. And I just felt it doesn't look right. It's fine, don't get me wrong. I just felt it didn't have that nice continuation with the keys around the corner. And I wanted to show that you could still use the colors if you don't want to go this route, but it looks nice with the blue in the corner there. And again, notice that the blue have the black strip at the top there, just to, emulate that piano keys again. But it also shows that transition with the cornerstone blue into my smaller cornerstones now. And I think it looks nice like that. But I felt that I could, make it a little bit more prominent by simply moving that down, and to just allow that visual appeal to show a little bit more better. So if I decided then I'm going to use another color, I'm going to use the black and I'm simply just going to add it in. So I think by using that black cornerstone again in there, for me personally, I think it rounds off that corner a lot more beautifully rather than the blue. I know. Am I right or wrong? Let me know what you think. So it just shows that transition of that dark, color from the larger square moving out into the smaller squares of cornerstone. but either way looks fine. You could, as I said, frame the area with the black because I am going to use black binding. So I think that will help as well with the blue. Let me know what you think. Did I make the right choice? Or, would you prefer just the blue or without the black? But I did like the black, and I think that's why I chose it. I love the stop of the focus of the eyes in the corner.
All right, everyone. So the quilt is completed. It measures 64 by 78. Tell me, what do you think? I think it looks absolutely amazing. I did go in and quilt all the blocks individually. So beautiful. It did take some time to do this, I would not lie, but it looks truly amazing. I love the on point look of the blocks. Looks really, really good. And I love the fact that I used the shorter end of the block. Remember, this was a block here, and had we used this particular half square triangles, we would have made a larger diamond and point. But with this particular instance here, I used a shorter one. And this is the sort of project you get with it. But it looks really lovely. I love it. The colors are amazing. The quilting is amazing. Love the cornerstones. Definitely love the cornerstones. I try to do motif in the actual blocks. But what a beautiful scrappy quilt. Okay, I did wishbones and I did them kind of large, well spaced out in the middle. But on the 2-inch border, I did them a little bit more small, as you can see. Okay, and on my other border as well, I did swirls. Now, one of the great things that I loved about this quilt is the piano border. Look at it. Isn't it amazing? Look at that. It looks so beautiful. I think it has literally made the quilt itself. Look at that. Just so amazing. Just loving the look of it. It really finishes off the quilt really well. I mean, look at it from this angle and you can really see it. I wish you can see it in person, how beautiful this quilt is. Love the cornerstones because it obviously plays a part in it. It allows all of the colors to be cohesive, and I didn't do any heavy binding. I just did some meandering here with loops, but it looks so damn gorgeous. I did went ahead and choose the black, so I saw that transition with the black there, but it looks really lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Great way of using up scraps to make a pattern. So let me just summarize. Yes, it's a scrappy quilt, but I also made a block out of it. So it looks like it was intentional. Great way to use up your scraps. Great way to get another beautiful quilt. Really, really lovely. I'm so pleased with the outcome. I'm loving the blocks. All the colors came together really nicely. I mean, there's nothing here that I would say I would do differently. As I said before, my favorite is literally the piano borders. That just really comes together nicely. So beautiful. So beautiful. Just love it. This was one of the blocks we made together here. That's what it looks like finished. I made 2. Here again, I used that same butterfly print, but I surrounded it with pink. Again, just random planning, but it came together nicely. Look at this one here. Love this. This is nice. And it's so good to look back at the blocks and see what they look like, because I tried to quilt them all individually. I have 20 blocks here. So if you look at this block here and how it's quilted, and then come to this one here, you see a little rose in the middle. Plus, I just did some dot to dot on this side, pebbles here, pebbles there, surrounded by pebbles. I love pebbles because to me, they make the scrappy quilt looks really, really nice as well. Because even though it's a bit uneven, let me go in closely and show you. Even though it's uneven, that won't really matter from a distance. So from a distance, you don't notice it, do you?
you just see the impressions of the quilting. Again, a different block, but quilted differently. Again, over on this one, different block, but with the feathers, motifs in the middle of all of them, surrounded by swirls. So that was my plan, you know, moving ahead. This one here on the end, swirls in the middle. And you can see I used the 4 same diamond here, or the square on point, to achieve this block here. Really, really beautiful. On the back, I just used yellow, a whole yellow border, and look at that quilting from the back of the quilt. I had a little bit of jumbling up here, but that doesn't take away from the beauty of it at all. Really beautiful. Let's look at another end and see if I made any more mistakes. No, this one seems fine. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Look at all that quilting. And I love to use lighter colors at the back. I don't always like hiding the quilting because, listen, I worked hard at it. So, of course, I want to show it off. You know what I mean? Because to me, it gives another side of the quilt that you can actually use if you don't want to use the front side. But just so beautiful. Tell me down below what you actually think about it. Loving the way it turned out. So gorgeous. I had a spare block, and as usual, I always make a pillow, a throw pillow with it, and you can see the quilting on there as well. Usually I would sort of come up with the idea of what sort of patterns, quilting patterns I want to use. As you can see, this was my sampler because I had the pebbles there, the feather, the swirls, the motif there, you know, so that's what I do. But it looks lovely, guys. Let me know what you actually think of the quilt. I look forward to hearing your feedback in the description box down below. All right, guys, I'm going to go now. Bye for now. Happy quilting. And if this video brought you any value, please consider subscribing. And I will definitely see you in the next one. Bye for now.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly.